a group is, that there's still differentiation amongst and between groups that distinguish them, and that there's no competition, there's no hierarchy, there's no polarity at all?
Well, here on Earth, this seems to be the planet of polarity.
Okay.
And I've heard this through a number of other sources as well, but the extraterrestrials recognize that too, and that whatever we have here in any category of anything, there are the opposites, the polar opposites. Even the Chinese, had this wonderful philosophy, and many still do, of the yin-yang.
Right.
Depicted in the mandala symbol, and that's the union and the interplay of opposite of everything, light, dark, in, out, up, down, good, bad, etc. And so on Earth, we're very much involved in that, happiness, sadness, And so, and we do have all these sort of differentiated groups and different beliefs, and we have so much competition here. But on other planets, some of those societies don't have that. They just don't operate that way. And that's one of the reasons why we fascinate so many of those species from out there, because we operate so differently, and we have greed, and we have war, and we have selfishness, and we have benevolence and kindness and goodness and the arts and music and so much creativity here, but we have so much over and againstness. And so some of those species are very fascinated with that because they don't have that. They're much more like-minded, shall we say, much more on the same page, and they don't have all that comparative stuff going on. So I think that it is possible for beings to be more all-accepting, all-encompassing, homogeneous in a sense with each other than we are. But I don't know that Earth human beings are ever going to evolve past all these differences that we seem to emphasize. I hope we will, but I don't know. I'm not counting on it. But it's reassuring to me that there are some species out there that do life a lot better in many ways than we do. And I wish that we could evolve more toward that ourselves.
When you met that woman who wrote the book of going into a progression into the future, and then she passed away.
Helen Wambach.
Right. Can you share a little bit about what she saw in the future?
Well, many people she regressed. If they went ahead, and I hope I'm remembering this accurately, but it will give you a sense anyway. If they went ahead about 150 years, what they tended to see was that there were no more tall buildings or even medium-sized buildings, that the land, wherever it was that they visited, usually in the United States, was had been pretty much laid bare, was more like just plain dirt or a desert, and that people were living inside very large domes, glass-like domes, in which they had farms and vegetable gardens and so forth that were growing their food, and they had sources of water, sources of air, but they were living under the protection of domes as if there had been a huge destruction and destroying most of what we know, most of what we have now, and that perhaps the air was so badly polluted that they had to survive inside these domes. So it was mostly bare land and some things beginning to grow, but nothing very substantial. Then these domes here and there that people were actually living their whole lifetimes in.
You know, you and I are living at a time right now where there is a organizational attempt to take over all of the seed supply and alter the molecular structure of seeds, to own the rights to all seeds,
I
to
know.
patent the molecular structure of seeds. That group has infiltrated our governments. They are the agricultural directors for Obama. It's really frightening. And then
It
the
is.
aerosol spraying of our air and the contamination with the 3 different chemicals that have been tested. If there are ETs, why don't they stop that? Why don't they help us and stop those groups that are destroying everything, literally everything?
Well, it's come through in a number of these regressions, some statements from them about this sort of thing. What keeps being said by different groups of ETs is that there is what we might think of as a prime directive or a universal principle, a universal law, that they are not to substantially interfere with the whole species like the human species on Earth. However, if it comes to the point, because a lot of them care about the Earth and about humanity, if it comes to the point that we are on the brink of nuclear extermination, that is something that they feel justified in intervening on. And they actually have, we think, intervened because back in, I think it was the 1970s, at one of the Air Force missile bases up in northern Montana, it was seen by a number of witnesses that several UFOs came over these big missile silos, these big vertical tubes, so to speak, and removed the tops of these silos and went in and turned off the mechanism that could release the missiles, which were aimed up and over toward Soviet Union at that time.
I actually heard that from Carol Rosin as well, verified. Fascinating. But for example, the aerosol spraying, I mean, these geoengineers are so insane. They want to turn it up to 200 parts per million. What they're already doing is killing the food supply. They're killing plant life. They're killing animals. This is going into our lungs. I would almost want to ask the ETs to stop this. I don't care if they had to blow out the planes in the air, to intervene on that level. It's that level of seriousness. It's going to kill the whole population.
It really is extremely serious. And, of course, I can't answer for them, but I just know that they have this principle, maybe it's even a law on their part, to, try to inspire people, try to help them out, try to give them good reasoning, good ideas, good technology, even free technology they give to some people who are trained technologically, but not to really interfere unless it looks like in a massive way that all of humanity might be destroyed. They also worry about our nuclear capability because they say that our nuclear pollution would not only be all around and in the earth, but it goes out even into outer space.
Right. Isn't it like 500,000 years it lasts or something?
Well, yes, something really outrageous like that. And then I think that most of us have not particularly had an idea of how far into space the nuclear pollution would carry. And so they are worried about some of their planets and their atmosphere. If we start setting off nuclear bombs and then that gets retaliated with more nukes, it's not only that we'd be destroying ourselves, but we'd be seriously harming, if not destroying, some of them too. So, it's really a big deal.
Do you think that in our lifetime we will witness or be privy to the fact that there is a nuclear detonation or some type of a war in the Middle East or in the United States?
No, you're just asking one person among the citizenry who doesn't know anything more about this than you do. All I can say is I certainly hope not.
Right.
And I think it's worth any of us who really think about these things, it's really worth it for us to at least use our consciousness about this, to Pray, if that's your way of using your consciousness. Meditate, if that's your way. Send out your thought, if that's your way. To